In the Python basic tutorials lecture, we understand what is Decorator. We also take a look at how we can use Decorator in Python. We understand how to use class decorator and static decorators. In this lecture, we are going to understand how to use and create your own decorators. So let's take a look at a very simple example to understand how decorator works. Decorator functions are software design patterns. They dynamically alert the functionality of the functions, methods, or class without having to directly use subclasses or change the source code of the decorated functions. When used correctly, decorators can become a powerful tool in the development process. To understand decorator clearly, you need to understand this line. Any function that takes a function as a parameter and returns an argumented function can be used as a decorator. So let's take a look at what is the meaning of this statement and see how to work and create your own decorator. So let me show you a very simple example to understand how to create it. So I'm going to just create here a function with a define keyword and then specify name to this function. I'm going to specify name super decorator, just like this. And to the body of this function, I'm going to just return f. And in the parentheses, I'm going to pass this f variable. Now this is a type of function. Just out of that, I'm going to just call this decorator. So to call this decorator, I'm going to just first add @sign, then specify super decorators, just like this, and then call a define keyword and then say my function, just like this. And in the body of this function, I'm going to say print, and in the print statement, I'm going to say this is my secret function. Now at the last, I'm going to just call this function, so I'm going to say here my function. Now when I execute this file, I'm going to have the result something like this. We did not done anything inside this decorator. The simplest decorator does nothing in the function. This decorator is just going to take a function as a parameter and return a function again. Now whenever you create a decorator, you need to pass function as a parameter and return that function. Now if we just take a look at this decorator, then this notation is the syntactic sugar that is equivalent to this statement. So whenever you create a decorator, it's equivalent to this statement. You have the decorator name and a function as a parameter. So when you call this decorator, I'm going to have this function as a parameter of this decorator and I'm going to just return that function. So this decorator is equivalent to this statement. Now it is important to bear this in mind in order to understand how decorator work. This unsugared syntax makes it clear why the decorator function takes a function as an argument and why it should return another function. Now take a look at a very simple example. I'm going to just remove this return statement right from here and specify pass here, just like this. Now when I execute this file, I'm going to get an error message. This is a type of non-type error. You're going to get a non-type error because we just pass nothing here. We did not return this function. That is why I'm going to get this type of error. Thus, we usually define a new function inside the decorator and return it. A new function would do something that is need to do, then call the original function and finally process the return statement. Let me show you how you can create your own decorator in Python. I'm going to just get rid of this statement and here I'm going to simply create a define keyword to define a new function, and here I'm going to say print arguments. So here I'm going to create a function print args and pass function as a parameter to this decorator. Now inside this decorator, I want to work on the function arguments. So I'm going to just say here define. So inside this function, I'm going to create another function and specify name to it, inner function, just like this. And then here I'm going to pass a parameter. So I'm going to say here star args. So I'm going to pass n number of parameters to this first argument. And then I'm going to say here double star kwargs. It means I can pass n number of keyword parameters as a second argument to this function. And in the body of this function, I'm going to say print args. And then I'm going to print this keyword argument, just like this. And at the last, don't forget to return this function. So here I'm going to say function, and in the parentheses of this function, I'm going to just pass both these values. So here I'm going to say star args, comma, double star keyword arguments, just like this. So this is my simple decorator. Now let me show you how to use this decorator. To use the decorator, you need to pass @sign before the decorator name. So my name of the decorator is print argument. So down here, I'm going to say @print arguments, and I'm going to just say here define and create my own function. So here I'm going to say multiply, and I'm going to pass two parameters here. I'm going to say here num A and num B. And in the body of this function, I'm going to just return num A multiply by num B. So I'm going to just multiply both these arguments. Now let me just call this function. I'm going to just copy this function name down here in the print statement. Here I'm going to call the function, and in the parentheses I'm going to pass value to the first argument and value to the second argument. Now let me execute this file and explain this code line by line. When I execute this file, I'm going to get the same error message because, as I said earlier, when you work with decorators, you need to return a function. So I need to return this inner function right here. So here I'm going to say return inner function, just like this. Now when I execute this file, I'm going to have the result something like this. Now when I execute this file, it's going to first print this argument. So as you can notice, I have two arguments to this function. So it's going to print both this argument. Then, as you know, we did not specify any keyword argument. So it's going to print curly braces here, the empty curly braces. And then it's going to return this multiplication and print 15 as a result. Now if I just specify here num underscore A is equal to 3 and num underscore B is equal to 5. And when I execute this file, you can notice I'm going to have the keyword arguments and the standard argument is empty. Now this decorator is going to print this keyword argument, and I'm not going to have anything in this standard argument. So you can notice how I use this decorator function. I use this decorator function to just print the value of this argument. Now to work with these function parameters, you need to pass both these statements. Sometimes user specify the keyword arguments, sometimes user specify the standard argument. So you need to consider both these situations. That is why I specify n number of argument to the first parameter and the keyword n number of argument to the second parameter. And I'm going to just print both these arguments. If you want, you can manipulate these values and do whatever you want. I'm going to create another function inside this decorator because I want to get argument from this function. So I'm going to create a function, specify parameters to it, print it, and then return this function with this argument. And I'm going to just return this inner function. And when I execute this file, I'm going to have the result something like this. Now, I hope you understand how to work with decorator in Python. This is the basic example of decorators. If you want, you can create different decorators in Python and save your lot of time. That is all for now. I will see you in the next one.